let's look at this. That's off, that's off, that's off, that's on. The stream seems to be live. All right then, let's do it. Hello, Shadowcat back with more Magic the Gathering, and we are getting close to the end. I mean, I think we are at least. I mean, I'm not positive, but I think we are. And so, today may be a little bit on the interesting side, because today we're going to go over the last card type that I think is going to be really relevant. And I think that's going to be it. And then we'll go over, I think, a little bit of cleanup. And that should be it for this module. It's weird. This has been a little bit on the disorganized side. I've been trying to keep it as straight as I can, but I haven't done a good job of that, mostly because I've done a lot of bouncing back and forth. We started with the Planeswalkers, we jumped to spells, went back to Planeswalkers, went to creatures. Don't even think we're done with the Planeswalkers necessarily. I gotta make sure everything is perfect. That's harder than it sounds. So, anyway, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get started on things here. Before I do that, though, I'll go ahead and take a look at the chat, because I see that JP is in the chat. Hello, JP. Good to see you there. I missed a toggle. What am I missing? I have no idea. Everything looks normal. Is it normal? I don't know now. Now you're making me question everything. Stop making me do that. I see Blizz is in the chat. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you too. And YouTube's still doing the whole weird top fan thing, and I honestly have no idea what that means or how it works. So, I mean, I'm just kind of ignoring it. And now there's a Bells in the chat. Hello, Bells. I don't think I know you, but I'm glad to have you here all the same. Alright, so, right, and JP says to make sure that I plug. Okay, we'll get the plug in. We'll get the plug in right away. So, if you're here, if you're hearing me right now, if you want to, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. I do a full weekly schedule, usually. Kind of been slacking off a little bit on that one, but I usually have a full weekly schedule of gaming content, and then of course on the weekends, or at least on Sunday, I do tabletop content. I have thought about extending that to Saturday as well. Maybe let me know what you think about that. What do you think about Saturday tabletop streams as well? I used to use it for lectures. I haven't done the lectures in a long time. They're controversial and not everybody likes that kind of thing. So I kind of got out of doing it. And I have a whole day there that I could probably do something with. You know, be productive. Let me know. If you know somebody else who's also into either Pathfinder or Magic the Gathering, I would suggest sharing this video with them, because there's probably going to be something in there that they like. If you like me, what I'm doing, go ahead and leave a like on the video. You want to leave a comment down below, you can do that too. Although, if you were going to do that, might I suggest, go ahead and go to the description. There's a link in there for the Discord. Join the Discord. Why would you do that? Well, number one, because you can chat with us there, which is great. Number two, though, if you want to play with us, like if you're here for Magic the Gathering, and you want to play this Magic the Gathering module with us, you got to be on the Discord. So go there, go to the behind the screen channel, let me know what games you want to play, what your availability is, and once I have a full group, we will get going. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. Also, Bell says, do you know what VTM is? I have absolutely no idea what VTM is. Should I? I'm not sure. VTM. Let's see, I can guess. Variable time module. VTuber module? Maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure. But hey, this is your chance to educate me. Tell me what VTM is. I'm interested. And JP says I missed the lectures. Yeah. I mean, I guess the biggest problem with the lectures is that I tried to make them, an hour to 2 hours long, and maybe that was just too much. It didn't need to be that long. I don't know, I could look into doing it again, but it's not a really high priority right now. Not to say that there is not content to cover. There is. Just not exactly a real high priority. And Bell says Vampire the Masquerade. Okay. Complicated question. Not that complicated, though. Do I know what it is? Yes, I have heard of Vampire the Masquerade, but I am not familiar with it. For a variety of reasons. It never really interested me that much, and I've always kinda had a thing about vampires ever since I played Baldur's Gate. I'm not a vampire fan. I'm very much on the other side of whatever vampires are. Wait, does that make me a werewolf fan? Crap, we're falling into Twilight logic now. Anyway, yes, I am familiar with it. I have never played it. I never intended to play with it. I'm very much a vampire killer, not a vampire player. And the reason why I hate vampires so very much is because, vampires are, like, super powerful in Dungeons and Dragons. Like, ridiculously so. And they have been nerfed over time. The further back in history you go, the stronger vampires get. And since Baldur's Gate was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, so that was the 2nd edition, vampires were insanely strong. They are basically immune to all damage unless it's specifically magical or holy. Their stats are higher than yours because while they don't really have a constitution modifier, they get buffs to pretty much everything else. They have natural spell-like abilities. They can insta-kill you in one shot. I learned from a very young age to not like vampires. So, yeah, I've heard of it. I've never played it. Could I be convinced to run a game of it? I don't know. I would have to learn an awful lot before I felt comfortable really running it. That being said, though, while I don't necessarily know the system for Vampire the Masquerade, I could probably approximate it in Pathfinder. I mean, we're talking about 2 tabletop systems already. All I would really need to understand is what does it do, how does it work, and from there, I could just simply adapt whatever I needed from that game into Pathfinder. Because I'm assuming that Vampire Masquerade, it's all about vampires in society just basically trying to make their way through. They're in competition with other vampire clans. There's turf wars, territory to take and hold. I think. I mean, I could be wrong. You can correct me in the chat. I'm fine with being corrected. But all that stuff I can approximate. But anyway, we're gonna get back into Magic the Gathering now. Although, I mean, since we're doing Magic the Gathering, there are vampires in Magic the Gathering. So if you ever wanted to be a planeswalker and have an entire vampire shtick, you can do that. There's lots of vampires. Let me go ahead and bring in my browser. So I'm gonna bring in the browser here. There it is. And we're gonna go to this advanced search. And it's going to be a creature, so I don't need that. Subtype. Vampire. There's only 425 of them. And Bell says it can be Dark Ages or Modern. I thought it was Modern by default. Like I said, I'm not too familiar. But hey, you like vampires? Look at all the vampires. We've got vampires for days. Vampires for days? Vampires for days. So many vampires for you to use. And hey, I'm the DM. I don't care what you use. I'm not the one that has to deal with them. Well, I mean, actually, I kind of am the one that has to deal with them, but hey, I get to try and kill them, so it's all good for me. Anyway, though, we're not here to talk about vampires. We can, we're not going to. Nope, today we are talking about battles, because it's the last card type that I think can really fit in here. Everything else falls under some kind of category that we've already done. Like if, let me go ahead and bring in my spreadsheet here. When we're talking about all the different card types, creatures. We did creatures. Creatures are done. Creatures are great. We've got a great system for taking any creature in your deck and turning it into a fully fledged creature in Pathfinder. Artifacts. We just finished those up. And I think they look really good. In fact, we can even take a quick little look at them before we move on. So when we looked at artifacts, blood is done. We just have to follow the card instructions. Same thing for clues. Equipment. Summons the appropriate equipment. It deals damage equal to its mana cost, D the power. So, I mean, your cheap little equipments maybe only do like 2d3 damage. However, if you pull something like, I don't know, Excalibur. Is there an Excalibur? There's probably an Excalibur. I'm going to search that. Excalibur. Yes, there is. There is an Excalibur. Here it is. It costs 12 to play. And the equipped creature gets plus 10 plus 0. It's a sword that does 12d10. Also, it comes from Assassin's Creed, so it's illegal in our game. But still, 12d10 sword. Oh, and it can only be equipped to a legendary creature. Well, I'm sorry, but you as a player are not legendary. Not yet. You have to earn that. Anyway, though, I think that works out really well for the equipment. So the mana cost is the number of dice, the power is the size of the dice. It works out. It also gives its toughness as a deflection bonus to AC, which is great. That means that shields can be shields, and even if you're wielding, you know, a regular weapon that just gives like a +1/+1, you get a small AC bonus for having it. It's great. I love it. Food, it's very simple. It's the same rules. Except instead of healing just 3 hit points, it's going to be 2d3 hit points because you got to pay 2 for it. Which actually makes it a little bit better. Is it great? No. But it's fine. Fortifications. I like the fortifications. I really do. I hope that when we get around to playing this one, somebody's going to actually carry the Darksteel Fortress or whatever it was. Because it will give you the ability to create a shelter. Not for very long. But I think it's got possibilities. Treasure tokens, already done. Incubators are creatures, so we already did that. Maps are just done, follow the instructions. Same thing with power stones. Vehicles, we just finished. And we got the vehicle stuff over here. Vehicles are going to have their own special kind of stat block. And it's going to be great, because you'll be able to conjure into existence this vehicle, jump onto it, and for, I mean, depending on how long you've got it. Like, here's the weird power of vehicles. Vehicles are going to kind of straddle a line between tactical and strategic. The thing is that if you're looking to travel a really, really long way, vehicles cannot do it. Since every summon, it only lasts for 1 minute per level. That means that by the time you can summon most of these, you're only going to have it for maybe like 5 minutes max. It's not much. Still though, for 5 minutes, depending on what it is, like if you had to be level 5 to cast it, that means that it's going to move, according to the speed increment here, 50 feet per turn. The maximum speed, because you'll be able to actually accelerate, will be 200 feet per turn, or 20 miles an hour. Well, 20 miles an hour, that's great, except for the fact that you won't have it for an hour, you'll only have it for 5 minutes. But you can still get pretty far in 5 minutes driving 25 miles an hour. Or not 25, just 20 miles an hour. I'm not going to do the math, because that'd be like 20 divided by 60 times 5? I don't know. Either way, it would be pretty decent. Not great for long-term travel, but if you needed to get out of there, that's your way to get out of there. So, vehicles are done, which means that we only have one thing left to do as far as I can tell, and that's going to be battles. So, let's go ahead and learn about battles, and that way we can start adapting them. So, battles. Battles are a card type introduced in March of the Machine. They are attackable permanents that have abilities. That means it goes onto the field, and you can target the other player, or you can target it. There are only 36 of these cards. These are not... These are not exactly a huge part of Magic the Gathering, and since they were introduced in March of the Machine, I don't think that they were ever used after that. March of the Machine was all about the Phyrexians invading the multiverse everywhere. So it was very thematic when it came out, and since it's over, and the Phyrexians lost, the battle whole thing doesn't really matter anymore. But, I still think this has value to us, and I'll tell you why. So every single one of these battles, and can I get that? Okay, so you can't really see the artwork on top, but that's fine. You can see the important part. This is the Invasion of Zendikar. It costs 3+ green to play, and then the rest of it you can see. The battle is a siege, and as the siege enters, choose an opponent to protect it. You and others can attack it. When it's defeated, exile it, then cast it transformed. So when the Invasion of Zendikar enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. So let's really examine this and see what this would do for us. So when it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Well, we don't have land cards to play because we're not playing Magic the Gathering. We're approximating it. So we can't play lands, but we can increase the mana values of the land. And so we can imagine that when we play this card, we summon this Invasion of Zendikar, we can actually create 2 new ley lines in this area. And since it says that they can be up to 2 basic land cards, and it doesn't specify the color, you can pick 2 of any color you want. Probably something's going to help you out more. But, and here's the thing about these. They have a certain number of, and I can't really mouse over this because it makes the thing pop up, but you can see in the bottom corner there, they have a certain number of hit points. And if they run out of hit points, then they get flipped. And I wonder if I can find this battle so I can see the flip side. Is it going to be down here? Because otherwise I'll have to go back up to the card search. References, external links, no. Okay, I'll have to go back up to the card search. Which is fine, because I had it ready. Battle of Zendikar, and I don't like these because they're all turned sideways. But here we go, Battle of Zendikar. So, it's turned sideways, you can kind of see a little bit of it. We already read this, but then it flips over. And what you get is the Awakened Skyclave. So, this then becomes a 4/4 elemental creature. It has Vigilance and Haste, which, you know, great, I guess. Vigilance and Haste are really good. As long as the Awakened Skyclave is on the battlefield, it is a land in addition to its other types. Now, that is not something that is too important to us, although, like I said, we don't really need to keep track of land, because the actual land that we're on will have its own mana values. However, if it's a land, that means that it would also be subject to land destruction. Now, are you going to be carrying land destruction? I don't know. That'll be up to you when you make your character. But if you did have land destruction and you could eliminate ley lines, it would technically work on this thing. So, what are we going to do about this? Every single one of these battles is going to have its own effect. I'm just going to pick one here at random. This is the invasion of Fiora. This one says, when the invasion of Fiora enters the battlefield, choose one or both. Destroy all legendary creatures or destroy all non-legendary creatures. Well, it's and or, since it's one or both. And so, since we have specified that creatures must be echoes, that means that if you're in a battle against another planeswalker and you summon this, just clear out everything that was summoned. So what happens when we flip it over? We get this Marchesa Resolute Monarch. Legendary human, has Menace Death Touch. Whenever they attack, remove all counters from up to one target permanent. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you haven't dealt combat damage since your last turn, you may draw a card and lose 1 life. So every single one of these battles is going to turn into something afterwards. It's going to be either a creature or an enchantment or maybe an artifact. I don't know if there's any artifacts out there, but maybe. Every single one of these will turn into something, though. The real question for us, though, is what is the battle going to do? Because once it's a creature under your control, and, great. You have another creature. But what about the battles themselves? What I would like to see is an actual battle. Because I would like to imagine that when you cast this spell, you're not just summoning a creature or an artifact or something along those lines. If you summon a creature, you conjure that creature into existence from mana. If you summon an artifact, you conjure that artifact into existence from mana. If you summon a battle, I would like to think that you are gathering up massive amounts of mana to actually summon the battle in progress into your battlefield. And so what does that mean? We are talking about, first off, changing your environment. So whatever environment you were in before, maybe you were standing in the middle of a plains. Well, congratulations. Now that you have summoned this, you have transported yourselves to this place. I mean, if I click on this one, what is this one? This is the Battle of Gobakon? I think it's Gobakon. And it says, when the invasion of Gobakon enters the battlefield, look at target opponent's hand. You may exile a non-land permanent from it. For as long as that card remains exiled, the owner may play it. It costs 2 more to cast that way. Complicated, but you know what? I mean, we can make it work. A lot of this is going to be, just interpretation by the GM. The point is, though, this battle costs 1+ white to play. And we are going to Gobakon. Now, I don't know anything about Gobakon, but if it costs white to play, I can assume that it is going to be a white-aligned area. So, what we could do is we could potentially re-roll the mana values for the area as soon as the battle comes into play, and for the duration of the battle, we would have new mana values to play with. We would literally be summoning a piece of another plane into existence here. Does it make does it make sense? No, it doesn't. And it doesn't because technically this would be an echo of the battle. It's not the actual battle. You weren't there. The battle's, long since over. But it would be the echo of it. So does it make sense for us to change the mana values? Not really. But I still think we could anyway. So we could change the mana values and turn it into a white dominant land. This could be very good, especially if you are a white dominant planeswalker. Could give you more mana to play with. Other things. Well, it is a battle. And so I want to be able to actually create battlefield conditions. And there are some rules for that, but they're not quite what I'm looking for, I don't think. We're going to look into them, though. So, in Pathfinder, there are a whole bunch of variant rules, and one of them is mass combat. So, these are mass combat rules, and these are for literally throwing armies against other armies. This section contains rules for you as a kingdom leader to create armies, assign their commanders, prepare them for battle at land, sea, or even in the skies. It includes rules for equipping and maintaining conventional armies, utilizing PCs as part of mass combat, converting groups of monsters into military forces, and going beyond the battlefield to deal with the aftermath of combat. The problem with this is that this does deal with massive numbers. Not that you're going to be rolling massive numbers, but instead of playing a character, you are now playing an army. You could be playing a not quite an army, but a squad of 10 people. You could be playing massive armies of thousands. And so it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for the actual players once we get into this, because you're assumed to be a commander of this, not necessarily in the battle. So we may have to make some adjustments. Now, a lot of this information is not something that we want to deal with, and the reason we don't want to is because there's too much information here to keep track of to make it flow freely in the game. What we need to do is to condense all of this as much as possible. Because, just as a rule here, when we're talking about armies, we have a type of army. The army has its own HP, it has a challenge rating, a defense value, an offense value, it has tactics resources, special qualities, speeds, morales, consumption, and even a commander if you have one. We don't want that. That is too much information for this battle. Not that it's not useful, but we do not want to deal with this. The only thing that I think we are really interested in is, number one, how big is the army? And number two, what does that mean for you on the ground? Because let's be honest here. Okay, let's be realistic. If you summoned a battle into existence and you are in the middle of clashing armies, well, you are not going to be very concerned with all 10,000 people in the army. Likewise, all 10,000 people are not going to be concerned with you. For the very large majority of the battle going on, it will be absolutely irrelevant to you. You will be involved or concerned with your survival, and that will be about it. So, what we need to do, I think, is we need to work on army sizes. There's tactics, strategies, victories, route, and defeat. feet. But I want to see sizes. Army statistics. Okay, here we go. Army sizes. A fine army. No, not a fine army. A fine army is 1 unit. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean 1 person. Sometimes if it's like goblins could be 2 or 3 creatures to a unit, just because they're small. But either way, fine is 1 unit. And PC Unicorn is in. Hello, PC Unicorn. Good to see you. Glad to have you here. Alright, so diminutive is 10. Tiny is 25, small is 50, medium 100, large 200, huge 500, gargantuan 1,000, and a colossal army is 2,000 or more. So what we need to do is we need to be able to establish how big are the armies involved, and what does that mean for you? And PC says, are we working on the amass mechanic? No, we are not working on amass. In fact, I don't even know what that is. Should I be working on that? Do I need to worry about that? I feel like I suddenly need to worry about that. Okay, I will worry about that later. No, we're working on battles today. Because we are going to work on not just, putting the card on the table, we are going to work on actually transporting an entire battle to you. And I mean like the entire battle in progress. As in, you cast this, and suddenly your area of the world has been replaced with this area from another plane where 2 armies are currently in battle against each other. So, what we need to establish is how big are these armies and what does it mean? What does it mean for you? Now, my initial thought, okay, this is just, I'm using my GM instincts here. My knee-jerk reaction, if I had to make this up on the fly, is that I would assign a number for each one of these. It would just be very simple. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The next thing that I would do is I would make a weighted table for these sizes, which is something that I have already done, actually. I'm going to go to my Star Trek module and borrow something. See, the interesting thing is that we have 9 size categories here. And in Star Trek, I have 9 tiers of warp cores. Which means that I actually already have a weighted table. I'm going to go over to a new spreadsheet that I already have set up. I'm not going to keep this here, but this is my table for warp cores. When I'm generating a ship, I simply roll a die, and I find out how many, or what size warp core it should have based on the roll. It's weighted as such that the highest level it exists, but it's improbably rare. Whereas the lower ones are much more common, as it should be. I can use the same thing, though, for army size. And so we could roll a die, and we could just... We could say that was going to be the size of the army. But what does that mean for us? Well, here's the thing. Like I said, when we summon this army, the armies could be just these enormous armies that are clashing around us, but that doesn't matter to you. What does matter to you is... What does matter to you is what actually affects you. So here's what I think I would do. I would take this, and I would say... We would make this into army size. There we go. Super simple. We could also make this the actual size, or the size of the die that we would need to roll. Now, how is this going to affect us? It's going to affect us in that we're going to have to use this to create additional NPCs. Now, what those NPCs are, I don't know yet, but we have a system to do that. So, for example, let me take a look at those battles again. So, this is the invasion of Goba Khan. What even is Goba Khan? Let's see if we can find out. Goba Khan. So what is Goba Khan? Goba Khan is a desert plain with twin suns. So it's Tatooine. Anyway, ignoring that. Desert plain with two suns, surrounded by two massive sunstorms known as the Eastern Cloud and the Western Cloud. Okay, not Tatooine. I don't think. They contain deadly amounts of diamond micrograins. Oh, wow. It's like walking into a sandblaster. Okay, but what I want is who lives here? So, obviously, recovering from the New Phyrexian invasion, the people of Goba Khan depend on the monks of the Order of the Shield Mage to protect them against the Diamond Storm Planeswalker. Teo Verada used to be an acolyte. Cool. But I really want to know who lives here. Aha, here we go. Sand Devils, Minotaurs, Djinns, Dwarves, and Goblins. That's what we wanted. So, all we have to do is make a quick character sheet for any one of those. Now, how do we do that? Well, that's actually really easy. If we come back to our module here and we go to the creatures, we have all these stat blocks for them. We can just use 10s in general for them. We can give them their bonuses, which are appropriate. For example, Minotaurs. We've got Minotaur right here. So we just give them 10s across the board. Our Minotaurs are going to get +2 dexterity, +2 wisdom, and -2 intelligence. And then we can use some of the card stuff for their stats. So, for example, this battle, here. It costs 2 to play. We could maybe use that. It's got the 3 over here. We could give all of them like maybe a 1d3. And the one, maybe we use this as a 1d3 because, yeah, that will be really important. Why is it really important? Well, because here's my thinking. So we transport into this area, and now I need to make a whole bunch of creatures. Now, I could actually do something really simple and just say, Goba Khan. Sand Devils, Minotaurs, Djinn, Dwarves, and Goblins. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll 1d5, pick the one there, create a creature based on that. If we use the actual battle number for their damage, that makes it real simple. And 1d3 is not a lot of damage, but we have to remember that, of course, these are echoes, so they're going to be weaker than the actual creatures were. And also, there could be an awful lot of them. Because, this is what I'm thinking. When we actually summon the battle into being, we go from... Let's see. Oh, I want to be here. We use the table here. We're going to use this table to determine how many NPCs we're going to create. Now, give me just a second. I need my Roll20 and it's not set up yet. I need my Roll20. And I'm still set back up on the wrong table. So let me get the right table out. There we go. Okay. So, let's say that we needed to make an army. We're going to make an army. We're going to roll 1d45 because that's what it says. So, I'm going to roll 1d45. 22. So, let's consult the list. 22. 22 is going to be here, number 3. Now, number 3 come back here to mass combat. It's going to be 1, 2... Okay, it's going to be a tiny army. So it's going to be a little battle. Because it's number 3, then, for every character on the battlefield, I think. Okay, I'm planning this out. For every character on the battlefield, and let's just assume that, like, this is our battlefield, so this person is here, this person's here, this person's here, and this one's here. All right, so there's our people. We are going to go ahead and we're going to create more NPCs. I'm going to pick a goblin over here because I'm going to need goblin tokens. I should have a goblin token in here somewhere. I cannot imagine that I wouldn't. Yeah, here we go. Actually, no, you look weird. I don't like you. Goblin dog, goblin with a mace, goblin rider, goblin shaman, goblin ghoul. That's weird. Alright, we'll just take the goblin with a mace, okay? So I'm going to need him. He's up there. Sure. I'm going to scroll up a little bit, zoom in a little bit, because we're going to need to make lots of those. So, the next thing we're going to do is for every NPC on the field, we are going to just create more. So it's a tiny, no, not a tiny, it's a small army, so it's going to be size 3. We have 4 people, so I'm going to say roll 4d3. All right, and now I'm going to take this goblin up here, I'm going to copy him, and then for this guy, I'm going to put 1, 2, and for this guy, I'll put 1 and 2, and for this one, it's another 1 and 2, and then over here, he only gets 1. And so just like that, we have populated the map with a whole bunch of little goblins. Now, these goblins are not going to be taking sides. They will probably attack whatever the closest thing is to them. And they may do like 1d3 damage, as I pointed out earlier. They may also only have like maybe 3 hit points, so they'd be really easy to knock down. I could even make it just 1 hit point. I don't know yet, so we got to work on. But let's walk through the sequence of events here. We have a Planeswalker. The Planeswalker casts Battle. In this case, the Battle of Gobekon. The Battle of Gobekon will come in, or the invasion of Gobekon will come in, and of course, whatever happens here will take effect. So, you look at a target, or the opponent's hand, exile a non-land card from it. In this case, it's going to be knowing what the other Planeswalkers' spells per day are, and you get to remove one of them. That's how that would work. And then, the battle comes into play. We have to re-roll the mana values, which is super easy. Because if you're worried about re-rolling the mana values, let's just remember that it's going to be 2d6 for the dominant, and then 1d4 for the rest. So the battle comes in, we roll the dice, and it looks like because this area is white, it's going to be 5 white mana, and then, what's the order? It's white, blue, black, red, green, I think. So it would be 5 white, 1 blue, 1 black, 4 red, and 2 green. And that's the new mana values that we have to deal with while this invasion is in effect. So let's write this down. Let's get some of this written down. So when played, we're going to change the, change the terrain to a new color. We're going to re-roll the mana values for the duration of the battle. And I can't read that. Can anyone else read that? There we go. That's a little bit easier to read. All right. So we're change the terrain to a new color. We're going to re-roll the valuable or the mana values. We got that. Next, we are going to roll twice for each army size because it is an invasion. And then for every I'm going to go ahead and say for every... Is it going to be for every PC, every NPC, for just everyone on the board? I'm going to say for everyone on the board. For every PC and every NPC, roll 1d army size. And for that, let me go ahead and just insert a column here. It's going to be tiny. No. Fine. Tiny. What was it again? Oh, fine diminutive. Tiny, small, medium, large, huge, gargantuan, and colossal. So there we go. So for every PC and every NPC, roll 1d army size. We're going to spawn an appropriate creature. And when I did that before, I placed them one space away on purpose. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Spawn appropriate creature around the PC NPC no closer than 10 feet. And that should give a nice buffer. It also means that there could be an awful lot of them because we only did one army here. This was only one army's worth. I'm going to go ahead and pick something else. I'm just going to pick something at random here. Doesn't have to be special. I mean, they are Phyrexians, so how about just a robot? I got robots. Where are they? I want... Here we go. Galactic Grunts. And Phyrexians. We'll use these for our Phyrexians, okay? They're scary, right? That's a scary guy. So we're going to roll 4d3 again. And I'm going to say that he's going to get 1. So I'm going to put him here. I'm going to move these guys back a little bit to reflect our new rules. He'll go back there, he'll go back there, he'll go back there. So there we go. And let me just move this up a little bit if I can. Can I? Not really. Doesn't matter. Okay, so he gets 1. This guy is going to get 3. So 1, 2, 3. I'll just put 1 there, and 1 there. The guy down here is going to get 3. So I'll put 1 there, and 1 there. And then the guy down here is going to get 2, so... Put 1 there, and honestly, you're fine where you're at. So there we go. We now have our battle in place. There's a whole bunch of things on the field now. All of them are pretty much going to just attack whatever is closest to them. And it'll be really simple rolls, because it'll just be like making 1 attack roll for all of them and seeing how well they actually do, fighting against the other things. I'm not going to say it's not going to be a little bit complicated. I'm not going to say that it's not going to take more time. It will take more time to do this, as is when you summon creatures of any kind. Summoners are really dangerous about that because they can drag down games, and it takes somebody with a lot of experience to actually manage that. Fortunately, I do, and I feel pretty confident about my ability to manage this. So, we've now populated our area with monsters. We have a battle that is raging. Now, PC Unicorn asked in the chat, and it's a very important question, what about defeating the battle to get to its other side? That is not going to work, because there's nothing to attack. We are literally teleporting an event from history here. So how exactly do we end the battle? It's very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a note in here, and I'm going to say that armies attack the closest targets. And that way we have a solid rule for how they're going to behave, and just don't be the closest thing. Maybe run. And Blizzard Star is out of here. Well, Blizz, it was good to have you here, and I look forward to seeing you back here again. I guess see you back here next Sunday. So, till then, take care. Alright, anyway, armies will attack the closest targets. That keeps the AI very simple. It means we know what they're going to do. We know how they behave. So how long does it last? Since we can't attack it and destroy it that way, the battle will last. Battles last a number of turns equal to their hit points. Or life points, or whatever you want to call it. So, when we look at this, when we look at this invasion of Gobakon, when it gets summoned in, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to change the landscape. So we're going from whatever it was to a desert. And that desert is going to be primarily white, with new mana values. And since we rolled those mana values, honestly, it's not great. A whole 5 white mana available, but there's basically no blue, no black, lots of red, and a little bit of green. So the mana values have changed. You're now in a desert. We're going to spawn in a whole bunch of NPCs. And so those NPCs are going to populate the battlefield, and then they're going to go to war. And like I said, we will make very simple rolls to see who is going to actually... who's going to come out on top. And then, the battle is going to last for a number of turns equal to the hit points. So, for this one, for the Battle of Gobakon, or Invasion of Gobakon, it's going to be 3. It's only got 3 hit points, so it's going to last for 3 turns. When the battle ends... So, when the battle ends, return the environment to the previous terrain. When the battle ends, remove all army NPCs. So that's just it. Every single, or the environment is going to go back to what it was normally. All of these guys that we summoned, they're all going to go away. Just Really simple, mass select and delete. You no longer have to worry about them. So what about the actual card itself? Because all of these invasions are double-sided. Well, when the battle is done, you automatically get whatever was on the other side. And in this case, it's the light shield array. So, if you were a planeswalker and you summon this battle, you have 3 turns. After 3 turns, you get this enchantment that says, at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that attacked this turn. Now, it does say each creature, so you don't count. You are not a creature. For that matter, whatever NPCs you were fighting, also probably not creatures. I mean, unless you're fighting another planeswalker, and then, yeah, it could happen. And then you can also sacrifice this light shield array. Creatures you control gain hexproof and indestructible to end of turn. Those rules do not need to change. They work just as normal. So what we have here is a battle that you summon in, and the battle will rage for 3 turns. After 3 turns, the battle ends, and you are now gifted, essentially, with this enchantment. But what if it was something else? Let's go ahead and take a look at a different one. This one. What is this? This is the Invasion of Kaldheim. Okay. First off, I want to look up Kaldheim. Alright, so, Kaldheim... No. Kaldheim Plane. This is what I want. So, Kaldheim is a top-down Norse mythology-inspired plane. Magic's take on the world inspired by Vikings. Let's look at then at what we've got. So, we already know that by this, the Invasion of Kaldheim, it's a red card, which means that we're going to be setting all of our mana values to red. Yes, it may be Viking themed, but it's a red card, so we're going to be making it mountain flavored. Otherwise, though, description. It is steeped in storytelling and song. All of its denizens share a common ethos. It is a plane of warriors who boast of their great deeds and yearn to die heroically in battle. Well, it's cute and everything, but who lives here is what I want to know. Phyrexian Invasion, the 10 Realms. Inhabitants, here we go. Sapient races. We've got Alrund. Well, these are the gods. We've got humans, spirits, zombies, demons, trolls, angels, giants, elves, dwarves, and even shapeshifters. There's also dragons, bears, birds, cats, goats, horses, imps, krakens. I'm not going to go through all of them. We don't need to go through all of them. Point is that we've got options. And so we can just pick one of those at random to use as our basic creature type. And we can even say that's just the dominant creature type. There may be others in the army, it's just that's what we're seeing. So we've got Kaldheim. We've summoned it in, we've re-rolled our mana values. Next is we're going to roll for the armies, and that's just going to be a 1d100. Or not 1d100, 1d45 for each army. So we'll roll 2d45. 14 and 31. So the first army, which is probably going to be our defending army, is going to be diminutive. And then the other army, probably the attacking army, is 31, which would be medium. Significantly larger. And so we would then go ahead and roll how many NPCs of each one to generate for each one of our players and other NPCs. And then the battle begins, because they're going to get their own turn, probably after the planeswalker that summons it, because you're definitely not going to roll initiative for all of those. That would just be madness. That would be impossible. However, the Invasion of Kaldheim has 4 hit points, so it's going to last for 4 rounds. During this 4 rounds, when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your hand and then draw that many cards. Until the end of your next turn, you may play cards you exiled in this way. So, what does that even mean for us? Again, this is where I'm going to have to make interpretations to see how this works. Because exile all cards from your hand. Your hand are the spells that you prepared that day. So essentially, they're all gone. It says you then draw that many cards. So however many spells you just exiled, you're going to be able to pick that many. Which this may be an opportunity for you because, well, okay, you're not going to get to pick them because it says draw. So essentially, we will go back to the rules about drawing. And we had that under the keywords here. Draw. You get to add a prepared spell. You roll 1d(x), where x is the number of spells you know, and then you add that spell. You do not gain an additional spell per day, normally. But in this case, you are literally setting your prepared spells aside, and you are gaining an entirely new set of spells. Random spells, but a new set of spells, and you can still play the other ones. So yeah, that would happen. And so it says, until the end of your next turn, you may play cards exiled in this way, so you get 1 turn to play as many of those exiled cards as you can before they're gone. And then you're stuck with whatever you randomly drew. So then we've got 4 turns, where you have now your new spells, and those are going to be with you for the rest of the day. 4 turns of surviving this battle, and then after 4 turns, it flips. And we get another enchantment. This is Pyre of the World Tree. Discard a land card. We don't have land cards to discard, so this effect simply does not happen. I mean, we literally cannot use this. This is not even land destruction. This is... You just can't do it. And whenever you discard a land card, exile the top card of your library, you may play that card this turn. So, this enchantment, in general, kinda worthless. But, just because this one is worthless, it just means that we probably don't want to use the Invasion of Kaldheim. I won't stop you from doing it. If you want to make like a whole Viking thing, and you want to use the Invasion of Kaldheim, you can. But this enchantment is not going to be useful to us. But either way, you'll still get it. When it ends, when the environment goes back to normal, when the terrain goes back to normal, you're going to get this. And we can look for something that is a bit more useful. Let me pick... I don't know... How about this one? We'll take a look at that in a minute. And PC Unicorn says, thought, could you if, say, the effect in town to cause fear and chaos as a distraction. I think you mean, could you use this in town? And the answer to that is, like, horrifically yes. Keep in mind that this battle is going to cover miles. You're replacing the entire area with this battle. And I would need it to be a static... Well, actually, hold on. No, we already have the rules for this. We already have the rules for this. We can treat the battle like an enchantment, because it does affect the entire field. So, when we come back here and we look at enchantments... Where did I do that? Was it under Planeswalker? Emergency Planeswalking... Okay, no, we didn't do that. First days in color. No, it's not here. Mana system? No, it's not going to be in here. Spells. Enchantment. I don't see it. Did we not write it down? I swear we talked about it. Oh no, we did start, but we didn't finish it. Spell range. Since it's an enchantment, the spell range would probably be really, really big. I want to say that the enchantment is going to be something along the lines of like a mile per level. But even so, even if we didn't do that, because maybe that is a bit much, what if? No, I think actually we were talking about it being a mile per level because we talked about using things like Apocalypse and somebody 20 miles away who didn't even know that you were there losing all their creatures. So I think that's what we talked about. We talked about it being like 1 mile per level. If we assume that, and then we assume that like one of these invasions comes in, you summon this and you're say, well, this invasion of Varin it costs 4 mana. It's 3 plus blue. So minimum you would have to be level 4 to cast this, which means it would be a 4-mile radius, 8-mile diameter. That's huge. And so when this comes in, not only would you be summoning in, a change in the environment, this place is blue, so you're changing it to some kind of aquatic environment. Or maybe you're just changing the mana values and you're not actually turning it aquatic. I'm not sure. Have to think about it a little bit. But anyway, you change the environment and all of a sudden you're populating the area with all of these creatures. So you're going to roll the size of the armies. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the roll again. Okay? I'm going to roll that again. So we summon this new battle in, and it's 14 and 37. Well, the 14 doesn't change then. I can't see her on my own microphone. So 14 is going to be diminutive, that's a 2. 37 is going to be large, and that's a 6. So it's going to be a 1d2 and a 1d6. And I'm just going to do this once. So a 1d2 and a 1d6. Alright, so I rolled it, and I got a 1 and a 6. So that's 7. That's 1 from the small army, 6 from the big army. This would technically appear not just around your player characters, and it would also appear around any of the other NPCs you're fighting. Let's say you summon this battle while you're fighting bandits, in the middle of town. You're being robbed. So you cast a battle. Well, if there's 4 people in your party, and there's 4 people in the robber's party, you just spawned in 7 additional NPCs for each one of them. And as such, that's going to be 4 for you, 4 for them, is 8. 8 times 7 is 56 NPCs. And that's just in your little grid. So we have to keep in mind this is also going to affect every single other person in town. Every person, the shopkeeper, the priest, even the little orphans, are suddenly going to be surrounded by 7 of these summoned horrors. Each of which does 1d4 damage, by the way, because let's remember, each one deals 1d whatever the life total of this was when it was cast. That could be a lot, actually. Like, that is slaughter territory. That is the kind of thing where I actually have to sit down and say, okay, let's stop and think about this for a minute. Because the majority of people in town are going to be, they're going to be just regular people. And so we sit down and say, well, if the regular average person And let's just go ahead and say that the average person has a they have a normal AC, an AC of 10. And we look at our monsters. We're going to go ahead and say that they're going to go ahead and I'm just going to roll a d20 here. And I don't know what any bonuses it would have, so I'm just going to roll a d20. So I'm going to roll 1d20. Not like that. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. Because every single person is going to be fighting for their lives, I'm going to go ahead and say town. And I'm going to go ahead and say the armies. Well, I'm going to say army 1. No, just say armies in general. We're going to make this a lot easier. Okay, so, actually, how do we make this work? 1d20 is not the way to go for this. It's going to be instead, I think, 1d10 plus 10. So we'll keep the 13 because that's usable. I'll take the 5 and just add 10 to it. And we can say that, perhaps, with a 15, we can subtract the 10. We'll subtract the 10 from the armor class and just say that they have eliminated that as a percentage of the army. So for the town, on their counterattack, they annihilate 5% of the enemy army. For the armies, we take their 13, we subtract 10, and they have killed 3% of the town. Now again, what we're working with here are averages. We're not using this to apply to the average person on an individual level. We are saying that some people are going to die, some will survive, some will fight back, some will kill, some will flee and live, some will flee and die. Either way, we're taking averages here. So on the first turn, we're going to say that for the town, they killed 5% of the armies, and the armies are going to have killed 3% of the town. How's your distraction working so far? Because this is only turn 1 of 4. We can keep going. And this is not to, I'm not trying to berate you or anything, because it is a really good question. This really gets into the whole nitty-gritty of the ethics of how are you casting your spells. Basically, we're doing the Spider-Man thing. And actually, I just realized I don't actually need the D10 because I'm going to subtract the D10 anyway. So, next one. The townspeople will eliminate 3% of the armies. The armies will eliminate 7% of the town. So we're up to 5 and 3 is 8. 3 and 7 is 10. So 8% versus 10%. But we still have 2 more turns left. The next turn is going to be 4% and 6, so we're now up to 12% of the armies and 16% of the town. And for the last turn, 3 and 3 is going to be 15% of the armies eliminated, and we were at 16, 19% of the town. So then, obviously, of course, after the end, the battle is going to disappear. All of the armies, alive or dead, will also disappear, and all you will be left with is a town where almost 1 in every 5 people died. And with no real explanation either. Because anybody who comes to this town afterwards is just going to see that, okay, what happened here? Oh, well, this army just appeared out of nowhere. They were everywhere in town. They slaughtered wantonly. They didn't care. I do think it's a good thing to consider because you're right, it could be used as a distraction. Trust me, you throw a battle, you're rolling the dice. Because it could be your chance to escape, it could also end up with you completely pinned. But I do think that this really gets to the crux of what battles are and how they should work. I mean, you're summoning an actual conflict. You're creating a war zone. I think I like this. So when the battle ends, you get to remove the terrain, you remove all the enemy NPCs, and then of course we're going to, when the battle ends, flip the card for effect. And PC Unicorn says, oh, I get that. Just proposing situations to get thoughts going. Trying to make sure the battles are balanced because they seem to in that situation. My thoughts with the battle is that both sides would be summoned to keep the town relatively safe. Since it's a memory echo, the armies would only go after the enemy from memory unless interacted with. That is a fair point. However, my counter on that is that while they are echoes, they are still going to behave like they were in an actual battle. And in an actual battle, these things happen. I mean, we're talking about just massive chaos in combat. They're not necessarily going to look for, who is a target and who isn't a target. After all, that was the purpose of wearing colors. When two armies would clash, like in medieval history, every single soldier was supposed to be wearing some kind of identifier. Maybe it was a shield with their lord's colors on it, maybe it was a tunic with their colors on it, or carrying a banner with the colors, because colors was the only way to really know who was the bad guy and who was the good guy. If your colors are red and blue, and their colors are yellow and green, don't stab anybody in red or blue. This was the entire point of families and lords having a crest. It was so they could be identified on the battlefield or on the field in general. Even if they were just a convoy going down the road, you would see red and blue and know that, oh, it's that lord. And then, of course, as history went on, they got a lot more complicated and a lot more involved. PC Unicorn says, so your average townsperson would just hide and be safe, whereas guards would defend. And that's true. But that's why I said that we're using this to take averages. We are not looking at the individuals. When I said that it was 19% of the town that was wiped out, I did not specify what comprised the 19. You're right, your average town person would run and hide to be safe. But how many of them would actually make it? How many of them will be cut down before they could even get to hiding? How many of them will be found while they were hiding? We don't know, and so we have to take averages. The same is true for the guards. The guards would absolutely run in to defend. And most of them might even do a really good job of it. I mean, they're going to have at least a rudimentary training. And a group of guards that band together might even be a really good fortified unit. But that doesn't mean that all of the guards are going to survive. The same is also true for the army, too. You're right, the armies that are going after, the civilians, the townspeople, they're going to rack up a whole bunch of kills. The armies that come up against a fortified group of guards, they're probably not going to make it. But we don't need to tell each one of those individual stories because it's not their story. It's your story. And so we abstract everything else around you into rough and simple numbers. And we focus on the people that are really important. You. We tell your story, turn by turn, decision by decision. So then why do we even keep track of the numbers? Because then afterwards, when the battle is over and you finish defeating your little gang of robbers that you decided to drop an army on, then as you're walking through town, we can play out the scene. And you can truly see what has happened as a consequence of the spells that you were casting. And this is actually one of those things that turns out to be really important, because as I stated, just a few minutes ago, we're talking about the consequences and ethics of your spellcasting. See, if you want to determine what your alignment is, well, this is something that is going to fix your alignment. Dropping a massive battle in the middle of a town as an attack against a group of robbers. What does this mean? It means that, number one, you are very much okay with overkill. And I mean, props to you. Sure, I guess. There is no kill like overkill. It also means that you cast this spell with almost no consideration for anybody else's safety. Because it's not just your life that's on the line when you cast this spell, it's your party members' lives on the line, it's the robbers' lives on the line, although, let's face it, you're probably going to kill them anyway. It's every single innocent man, woman, and child in town. When we look at alignments, and we look at lawful versus chaos, good versus evil, a lot of this can be basically summed up as lawful versus chaos is, do you follow the rules and do you keep your promises? If the general agreement is that everybody is going to abide by the same rules and you do, congratulations, you are lawful. It might not even be intentional. This is why I've always said that I don't really abide by the alignments that people choose when they create their characters. Your alignment will come out as you play the character. If you are the kind of character who doesn't just follow the laws but upholds them, if you actually don't just keep your own promises but ensure that others around you keep their promises, congratulations, you are lawful. If you only keep your own promises and you don't care what anybody else does, if you follow the law but you wouldn't turn in anybody else who's breaking it, you're neutral. And if you don't even keep your own promises or you don't follow the laws unless somebody makes you, you're chaotic. So true, or so also is this true for good versus evil. Good versus evil is best defined as selfless versus selfish. The good person asks, how does this affect others around me? They're empathetic. The evil only cares about how it affects them. Does this benefit me? And so, battles are a good tool for that as well. Is there ever a good time to summon an entire battlefield? I don't know. I'm trying to think of a reason, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. Doesn't really matter, though. Summoning a battle, if you were fighting a bunch of brigands in the middle of a road somewhere, I mean, you're miles away from any civilization, but you got ambushed by these guys, they outnumber you, and so you're like, well, let's even the odds here and give them something else to play with. So you summon a battle. And now there's some 40 more NPCs on the field, some of which are attacking your the bandits on the road, some of which want to kill you, but you're saying, you know what? It might just work. That's neutral. This literally does not affect anything. It's your fight. It only affects you and the people that were trying to hurt you. Summoning a battle in town would be an explicitly evil act, because it is going to cause so much collateral damage. And so it really defines who your character is as a planeswalker. We mentioned before when we were talking about the mana system and land, how there are land destruction effects. And I mean, I can bring those up. When we look at the mana system and we see what would happen whenever we were to remove these. Because, like black, for example, black represents power, self-interest, death, sacrifice, and uninhibitedness. Well, these are all things that are necessary in a balanced and harmonious world. You need to have power, because if nobody has power, nothing gets done. Power drives things. No power, no progress. Self-interest. If nobody has any self-interest, nobody does anything. I mean, you might have some people who do something just because they feel like it's good for somebody else, but otherwise, even people who are very generous are self-interested in their own feelings of pride they get from being generous. They feel good about what they've done, and they want to do more of that. If you lose death, then there is no end to suffering. People suffer forever. If there is no sacrifice, people will not sacrifice anything that, you have, other people's stuff, but they don't sacrifice anything they have either. Sometimes you need to sacrifice to get ahead. And we all do this. And uninhibitedness. The opposite of that would, of course, be complete inhibitedness. Nobody would do anything. Nobody would be ambitious. It's why when we look at what it would do to an area, if black was the dominant area, we get more corruption, more crime, we get less law, law, and society. We wipe it out, and yes, we do get more of these things, or, any of the other colors, whatever it happens to be. Well, actually, no, we just get the opposite of this, because these go away. So corruption and crime would go down by 2, law, lore, and society would go up by 2 by removing black, but you also lose all of these things. So why is this important? Because a land destruction planeswalker is a thing. And when we talk about summoning a battle in the middle of town, well, those consequences are very much apparent. See, once you walk out of the back alleyway, after you dealt with the robbers, you get to see the people dead in the streets. You see the people that have been maimed and injured. You get to see the horror that you have wrought. This is much more subtle, though. If you were to simply drop a few spells and just bomb all of the black mana out of an area, the consequences would not be immediate. They would be gradual, and the entire area would eventually turn into some kind of sickness in civilization form. Because all progress would just stop. All suffering would increase. And nobody would do anything about it. Land destruction is very similar to a battle in that it is an outright evil act. You do this, and it is tainted forever. I mean, technically speaking, I guess it could be undone. There are enough ways to create land that it could be fixed. But if you're not doing that, then it's mindless destruction with no... Either you don't know it's going to affect other people, or you don't care. Or it's intentional. Either way, it's bad. So yes, it could be done, and I can imagine that by and large, you're right, most monsters would go after each other, but that's why we roll the dice to see how many spawn around any particular NPC. Because most of them are going to attack each other. And they're going to completely ignore you. And then we roll the dice to see how many actually notice you and how many you have to deal with. So that's how that's going to work. And that's why that works the way it does. Overall, though, I think I'm happy with this system. I really think that I am. I think it's going to be interesting if it happens. I do not think that it would happen, because I don't think that many planeswalkers would want to carry a spell like this. There's almost no good reason to do so. I also wonder if it's even possible. Are there any battles that are common? Oh my, actually... Oh, this is the wrong thing. Never mind. Get rid of this. So, rarity is going to be common. Card subtype, no. Card type is going to be battle. Okay, there are 0 results for common battles. So it's not the kind of thing that you could pick anyway. But if I go to uncommon, there's 20 results there. Now, going beyond what we said, common is things that you'll be able to pick when you level up. Uncommon are things that you would have to study for a certain amount of time. And so this may not even really be an issue. They are things that I could insert into the game if I wanted to, or things that you could seek out. But otherwise, I don't think we'll need to worry about it too much. The rules are there, though. You could do it if you had the spell. And perhaps we need to have rules for this. We already talked about possibly learning about spells through books and such. And my initial reaction to that was that we shouldn't do that. However, with battles, there may not be any other way to learn about it. So we may have to amend this. And how would we do that? Well, I have to think about this for a minute. I have to think. So, common is common enough that you can learn it on your own. Uncommon is something that's usually out there, not available to everybody necessarily, but also not too hard to find. Rare, of course, would be much rarer. That means that in order to find these things, we would need to have some kind of... we need to have some kind of DC for how to find it. Interestingly, let me think about something here. What if I didn't leave it up to just a very simple, a simple skill check? What if we made this part of our, hold on, brain is working. What if we made this part of our civilization? So, I have a system for generating cities. Now, when I do this, and I don't have it handy with me right now, I didn't think I was going to need it, obviously. But when we do this, I have a system for generating exactly what kind of town that it is. And when I say what kind of town, I mean not just, what kind of people are they, what's special about the town, things like that. But I can actually use something similar to what we did for the battles. Like, for example, this. This is a simple weighted list or a weighted roll for 9 levels. It's good for warp cores. I love it for warp cores. It works really well. It's good for army sizes. That's good too. But what else has 9 levels? Oh, I don't know. Magic. If you're looking at arcane magic, there are cantrips, which you can find basically anywhere, and then there is levels 1 through 9 of arcane magic, with level 1 being things like magic missile, and level 9 being things like wish. When I generate a town, I can generate what kind of magic is in the town, whether it's arcane or divine, which is usually just a coin toss. And then, once we've done that, I can roll something like this, and if it comes up arcane, I can roll the dice here and say, what level of arcane caster do they have there? And that tells me what kind of magic my party can expect to find. The same thing is true of weapons. Walking into town, I will roll a 1d6. 1, 2, and 3 is simple weapons only. Okay? Simple weapons only. Which is not a small list. If we come over here and look at equipment, you might say, oh, only simple weapons? Well, that's terrible. But no, simple weapons down here is all of this. You have things that you can use, and there will always be some kind of weapons available. Always. Of course, that means that on a 4 and a 5, we get into martial weapons, which are better, but they do require proficiencies to use them. As such, not only are the people who need them less common, but the blacksmiths who probably create them are also less common. Not every blacksmith knew how to make swords, axes, and armors. It is why weaponsmiths and armorsmiths were their own profession. You didn't always come across them. And then, of course, it's a d6. So if 1, 2, 3 is simple, 4 and 5 is martial, if I actually rolled a 6, we could get into exotic weapons. The kind of things that you usually have to go looking for, but sometimes you might just stumble across them by accident. I could do the same thing for these spells, where common should be something you can find in almost any library. Uncommon might require a different, a higher level. Same thing with rare, mythic, and etc. So for 5 is usually a good, I want to say 15 die. So it would be like 1 through 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15. Yeah. So it's a 1d15 roll. And that means that everything would fall somewhere in the common to rare area. And you might be able to find something that way. Maybe. I don't know. I think that rare should be a lot more rare than that, especially given what some of the rare cards are. Like, if I come over here and I look at rare equipment, I want to go to advanced search. I'm looking for rare, and I'm looking for equipment. No. It's going to be down here. And I mean, I say this because there's a lot of things around here that are going to have, like, names. This is a bad example since we can't use it, but the Anduril Narsil Reforged, yeah, that is a very, very specific sword. You might be able to read about it somewhere, but you might not be able to find much. Looking at this, Blade of Selves, that's kind of a named item. The Blade of Shared Souls, Blade of the Blood Chief, these are all rare, and they're all rare for a reason. These are not mass-produced. So, finding these things would be a little bit hard, I think. And I could make this a lot easier by simply doubling the numbers. But even if I doubled the numbers, it wouldn't necessarily make the it wouldn't change the probabilities. I'll figure it out when I do the world designing for this module. It's not something I'll work on right now. So, anyway, that should take care of battles. And that pretty much finishes this up. The only thing that I really need to do is finish up a few other things, like untargeted down here. This is going to be a 1 mile radius. So that will be for instants and sorceries that do not have targets. I'm thinking things like Slice and Dice. It's a card that I have. It does 4 damage to everything. I'm also thinking about enchantments. They should cover a huge area. Most of them are not going to affect people anyway, so it's fine. So we've got our mana system. The mana system looks good. I mean, kinda. It could be cleaned up a bit, but it's all right. I can do the cleaning. Because some of these are just examples. And I can delete those. We've got our spells. We've got a lot of these. There's still some of these I need to finish up. Like I never did Intimidate. I never did Banding or Shroud. Shroud is basically just hexproof anyway. And so I could probably just copy and paste. We did our creatures, and our creatures look good. We've got everything we need for their sizes. We've got everything for our vehicle sizes as well. Although I don't think we really need this. Because I think we already have something for our occupying capacity, so we don't need this anymore. This can actually just go away. Goodbye. We've got all of our statistics for the Echo type and all the traits for it. We've even tested this out. We've got a few creatures here that are done. We have literally all of the racial adjustments that we need for them. Took forever, but we've got them. We've got all the information on guilds. So if you wanted to join them, because certain things are going to be restricted to certain guilds. So, for example, when we look over here at the mechanics, and I know that we covered this pretty briefly, but if you wanted to get cards that had Forecast, Detain, Addendum, Transmute, Cipher, Surveil, Hellbent, Unleash, Spectacle, Bloodthirst, Bloodrush, Riot, Convoke, Populate, Haunt, Extort, Afterlife, Replicate, Overlord, Jumpstart, Dredge, Scavenge, Undergrowth, Radiance, Battalion, Mentor, Graft, Evolve, Adapt, Outlast, Bolster, Prowess, Delve, Raid, Dash, Ferocious, Enrage, Magecraft, and Learn. These mechanics are all going to be gated. They're not banned, they're just gated until you join the appropriate guild and find out that way. And that's another thing that's going to be in the civilization the civilization listing, because when there is a settlement, if there, or whatever the dominant color is, we have a listing here where we can roll on and tell exactly what kind of guild will be represented there. So, I mean, that's all we really need for that. Guilds, I think, are going to be great. Everybody is going to want to join a guild at some point. If for nothing else, just for the more spell options. We have all of our rules for artifacts, and I think that they're great. We already covered those at the beginning of the stream, so I don't need to go through those. The keywords here, though, I do think we probably should get into. because we probably should finish those up, I think. So I'm just going to type in keyword. Keyword ability, keyword action. Is it keyword action that I want? Yeah, I think the keyword actions here are the ones that we need to go through. And even then, it shouldn't be that much. Keyword actions. And then even just some keywords like, well, actually, I guess I have graveyard in here, but graveyard is technically a zone. But I can do things like this. I can say hand. What is your hand? It is your prepared spells. Things like that that we still kind of need to go through, but we don't need to go through all of them necessarily. I think some of these should be just obvious. Things like attach. Do we really need to write out the definition for attach? It says a keyword action to move an aura, equipment, or fortification onto another object or player. Since we've already determined what an object, which includes what a key or what a creature or whatever is, and what a player is, there's not much that we really have to do there. The definition writes itself. Counter. Certain spells and abilities can counter target spells. We have basic understanding of what counter spells are. It should be fine. Things like discarding. Well, if you're forced to discard, you're either going to discard at random or discard by choice, and you're going to simply lose a prepared spell. And guess what? We already did that. We already did it. Exile is kind of a big one because a lot of things get exiled all the time. And if I had to put exile in here, exile is going to simply be removed from hand or called hand or graveyard per X. That easy. I mean, there's no deck for you to exile anything from in our game, so anything that says exile from library doesn't really apply. Is there anything else? Fight, we can understand. Mill is actually useless. Since we do not have a library to draw from, there is nothing to mill. Play, we understand. Regenerate is not complicated. It's a little complicated if you're unfamiliar with the term. Basically, you can only regenerate something as soon as it's killed. You cannot regenerate it once it's been dead for a while. But this is just a technicality that can be addressed in game. Revealing is just that. It reveals. Sacrifice, we understand. Scry. Since we don't have a library, you can't scry. You can't search either. Although, I should say that with search, we actually do have a rule. You get to add a prepared spell. It must be a spell you know. I guess your library is technically the spells that you know. But at the same time, you can't, like, mill these... There are these spells that somebody knows out of their head. So there are some technicalities there. Planeswalk, set in motion, detain, populate. A lot of these, we can just work them out on the... as soon as we do. I mean, assemble... it's related to contraptions. It was greatly expanded upon unstable. Not really important, I don't think. So the example they have is the Steam Flogger of the Month. When it enters, it assembles a contraption for each contraption you control. To assemble contraptions, put the top card of your contraption deck face up onto one of your sprockets. So it looks like this was a very, very specific mechanic that didn't last very long. So probably don't need to worry about it anyway. Some of these are not going to be really of use to us, like Venture into the Dungeon. That came out with the Dungeons and Dragons set, I believe. Or maybe it was the Lord of the Rings set. Either way. No, I don't think we really need any of these. I think that we're pretty much done, with the last thing just being Planeswalkers themselves. So let's take one last look at the Planeswalkers and make sure that everything is good here, or if there's something else that we need to do. So we already know what their role is. Their alignment can be any. Their hit die is a d6. They get starting wealth of 1d6 times 10 gold pieces. And in addition, you get to begin play with clothing, which is good because you want that. I presume. I could be wrong. I won't make you. Let's see. Since we're using the Summoner's class skills, they get Craft, Fly, Handle Animal, Knowledge, all of them, which is fitting for Planeswalkers. Linguistics, a profession, which, craft and profession everybody gets. My explanation is that your craft is your hobby, your profession is your job. One you do for fun, one you do for a living. They get Ride, they get Spellcraft and use Magic Device. They get 2+ their Intelligence modifier skill points. And their spell DC is 10 plus their spell level plus the Charisma modifier. The spell level for a lot of these spells is just going to be their mana cost. So then we get into the actual Planeswalker. They have a slow advancement when it comes to their base attack bonus. They have a will save centered saving advancement. So let's get into what actually makes them what they are. First off, they are going to be able to planeswalk, and they can carry 10 pounds per level. It's not much at the beginning, but every third level they're able to take one more person with them, and we have planeswalking rules below. They have a max mana of 1 per level, number of spells per day equal to 3 per level, and spells known as 2 per level. And of course, when you level up, you get to pick whatever you want, so long as it's common. They choose a color identity at level 1, then they get their first adjacent color at level 4. So it has to be adjacent to whatever their primary color was. And their second adjacent color must be adjacent to any of the 2 colors they already have. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the other one they didn't pick. It could be the other one or the new adjacent. The same thing is true for the third adjacent and the fourth adjacent. By the time you hit level 16, you are a multicolor planeswalker and you can cast pretty much anything. Which is good. It's good for you. As far as the planeswalking goes, it's interplanar travel, random destination unless you are very familiar. We're going to use just the general teleport rules for that. Planeswalking does have a cooldown. It is 20 minus your planeswalker level in days. So it's significant. You're going to want to really think about planeswalking. You're probably not going to. However, the thing about that is there's an emergency planeswalk. It follows the massive damage rules, which is to say, if you take more than half of your max HP in a single attack, you will planeswalk randomly. Which is to say that I will go to here. And I'm going to go to planes. Okay, maybe not planes, maybe just plane. Okay, plane is a card type. Here we go, list of playing cards. I am going to go to this column right here where it says plane and pick something random from here. There are a lot of options. You could end up in a lot of very interesting places. You could end up in a few bad places too. So if you take massive damage, you end up in one of those planes, and then you have to wait to be able to planeswalk back. Now, fortunately, at that point, planeswalking, if you're trying to get back home, it's very familiar. So you can always get back home. You just have to survive long enough to do so. When you do planeswalk, you can only bring so much weight with you, so you may have to pick and choose what exactly you're bringing with. Although I suppose if you had the sufficient weight, you might even be able to bring a person with you. I'm not sure. Probably not. Maybe only if they're adjacent to you. If they're adjacent, maybe we could allow that. So, we have our planeswalkers, and I think that our planeswalkers are pretty good. I think we have everything that we need here. So, I'm going to kind of throw it back to you in the chat. Is there anything that you can think of that we're missing here? Because I think it's ready to go. It needs cleanup. It needs to look pretty. But I think it's good. And if I come here to the overview, travel system, mana system, conversion system, card to block, we did that. Playable races. Do we want to go through and make new playable races? A lot of them are in there, but things like Phyrexians, do we want to have a completed Phyrexian race? Do we want to have the Kami as a race? Do we want to spend another session going through any playable races that we can add to our list? I mean, we can't do it today because we're basically out of time, but this is an option that we can look into. So I suppose I will go ahead and just kind of turn a couple of things off here while I give people a chance to answer, and we'll work on getting out of here. So we might be done, we might not be done. I'll wait for this, but if you want to see more stuff like this, I'm going to go ahead and just say go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I don't know if we're doing one next week. I don't know if we're not. I gotta wait for the answers. But if you want to see more stuff like this, because if we don't do Magic the Gathering next week, I already know what my next module is going to be. If we do Magic the Gathering next week, then we'll do races. If we don't do Magic the Gathering next week, I have a new module to do. I also have updates to do on other things, so we may go back and do some updates. There's a lot of irons in this fire. But if you want to see any of that, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into tabletop gaming, and you think they might enjoy this, or if they're just into Magic the Gathering, share this video with them. If you like what we're doing here, leave a like on the video. I like likes. Everybody likes likes. Come on. Give me more likes. Leave a like on the video. You can leave a comment down below. If you're going to leave a comment down below, though, I would say go ahead and join our Discord. It's there. We're friendly. We want more people. Join us there, especially if you want to play. Join the Discord. Go to the Behind the Screens channel. And let me know what you want to do and what your availability is. Once I have enough people for a group, we'll start playing. And since the Magic the Gathering module is pretty much done, I guess I'll put a poll out to see what people think about that. Since it's pretty much done, it's on the table for play. So if you want to play Magic the Gathering in Pathfinder, go do that now. Otherwise, though, I will see you back here next week for whatever it is that we're going to be doing. I'm going to put out a poll. We'll find out that way how we're going to do it. So we'll find out then what we're going to be doing, and I'll see you then. And until then, take care.